Hey guys, it is Carnifex with another Nerd This video. Big, huge, long to read Battlegrounds fact that just got dropped. We are going to go over my basic tips for Battlegrounds. These are more conceptual things. You're going to find some strategic elements, but this is more of what you can do to prepare, what you want your mindset to be whenever you're going in, and how best to take down enemies and maybe a few friends along the way in Battlegrounds when it comes out next week. Let's go. Okay, so you can see here, I got Battlegrounds up. This is the 1v1, so it only has 3. So, and you can see over on the other side here, I have my tips that you're going to be going through, so you can reference it a little more quickly if you just want to speed through the video, just don't have time, going to read that later, whatever, not offended. So, what we're going to do first is, these are the 4 kind of like main concept that I have for really dominating your Battlegrounds. You're going to want to have... Be thinking about your preparation, your speed, your resources, and placement. Preparation, this is, you don't want to, there are a lot of things that you want to do before you ever queue for Battlegrounds. For speed, so much of what you do, how this is going to go for you depends. This is real time arena. Someone else, just like on all those like League of Legends, they talk about all the actions per minute and stuff like that. That kind of, it's not going to be as extreme in those scenarios, but it is definitely going to matter. So we're going to go into that. Resources, this is more talking about how to use your characters most efficiently and effectively in order to accomplish your victory. And then finally, placement. This is going to be where we get into a little bit more of like the actual do this, do that aspects of in-game strategy. So right now I'm matched up against a bot. So nothing's going to happen here. We're going to come back to this in a second because the first one, plan out your teams beforehand. So I do have an in-game suggestions built. I'm working on the video. It's going to be the next video that I put out. It's like, you know, if any of you see me in a match later and you get the edge on me, just remember who gave you all your stuff, who could have kept it all to himself, but it's all right. That's not how I roll. That's not what I'm about. One of the reasons I do this, I don't do this for money. I've never made a cent off of this game. I just enjoy making videos, having fun, helping peeps out. So what you're going to want to do, go into your heroes, right? You have all these heroes, but you don't want to pick from this whole mess whenever you're going through. Now, right now, the only way to access your teams is by queuing for some kind of fight. If you don't have to use arena matches to do this, you don't have to have tower left to do this. You can literally just go into, boom, any campaign mission, use your energy. You haven't even used your energy yet, so literally just pop in that way. But you're going to want to go into your teams. You're going to want to build out your teams. And you're not only going to want to build this out, it's just showing Gray because we're in a clans match and he's an order character. Here, I'll just pop in a demon so it doesn't throw anybody off. But you are going to want to build out all those teams. And you're not just want to build it out. You're going to want to build them out in this queue in a specific order. You are going to want to have 3 great offensive teams as your first priority. This is definitely one of those instances where the best defense is a good offense. You want to have a good offense. You want to save your best teams for offense. You want to know if you go into any fight that you are at least going to do a heavy number, if not clear it, and possibly even clear it pretty dang quick. So you can see a few suggestions I have here. This is the test server, again, because obviously we don't have Battlegrounds yet. That's how the security 7-star. Nobody freak out. But right here you can see I have a Demons comp, right? This is a good suggestion. These are, by the way, most of these, there are some adjustments I'm making. Like I don't have Puncherface in here anymore. It's honestly, it's a little hard filling out the Zera team, and I'll get into that whenever I do that video. But anyway, the 3 leaderships, again, end game that I would suggest are the Slinger lead, the Zera lead, and the Thalon lead. Those are definitely going to be what you want to roll with. But, you know, if you only have 3 legendaries, it probably doesn't include Thalon. You probably don't have Zera. I don't know. You might have Zera, depending on when you started. But anywho, you want to have your top 3 offensive teams right at the top because those are going to be the only teams, other than a couple and potentially, that you will be using more than once probably on attack. So you want to have them more accessible to yourself. Next, you're going to want to have your top defensive teams. Pride is like the prime suspect for that, right? Pandas is another good option. Fantastic option is the Goblins. You're going to have your top few here because whenever you go into Battlegrounds and you attack, and I'll just go ahead and show this. we'll go ahead and do our first fight here. Part of the reason I didn't want to start it too soon is because I start getting points and then could run out of time. So anywho, we're gonna go into a fight here real quick. We're gonna go for this land, this area right here. The whole area is called a LAN. So we're going to go in. We're not going to use these first teams because you can keep the team that you use for defense. And it's going to be more effective that way in the beginning. Because as you can see, there were a bunch of I'm talking blue, low gear characters that are being NPCs, filled by, kind of like NPCs in a way, fill in the slots. You just want to click that auto, get through it as fast as you can, and get your good defenses set out there to kind of claim your spots. They will take sometimes a little longer than a normal one. Having a good AoE like Kagi in there will definitely help with that clear. But anyway, so you started going in there. That's going to be how it's going to roll. Now, for your next teams, you have 3 categories, right? You have your offensive teams, your defensive teams, and the third one is your sweepers. Now, for those who are unfamiliar with this term, no, it is not really related to the soccer situation in a way. You could kind of extrapolate that, but the prime sweeper team people are going to have is something that has Snorri and Revel. You may, again, depending on how far along you are, you may need Rantha for your offensive team, and that is more important. The point of the sweeper team is just to get a quick clear. So why do I say Revel and Snorri? Well, because they're the Wombo combo. They are the Wombo combo. The only really super viable other sweeper team for actual enemy teams, because this team is going to be able to beat some of the weaker defenses of your enemies. So right as soon as we get Revel to come around, you can see I added Sharp in there. We didn't even get to Revel because this team's so weak. But so this is why you want to start with your defensive teams, because your defensive teams can win, and they can win fast this way. Sweepers are going to be best served for you to use against those definitely C-list teams that your opponent has. Now, I said the first one is Revel, the second one is Lake. Lake is more of a stretch. Lake requires you to be able to lose Ember from your more valuable Soleus lead team. It's going to require you to have Amara. And again, not have a spot for her. I guess a lot of people would have her for Goblins, so you may feel the pressure to put her on there. Those are the 2 sweeper teams. You're going to use those against, again, not like those top couple. You're not going to use them probably against Pride. You're not going to use them probably against Goblins. You're going to use them against kind of more of those filler defenses that people are going to have to use at times in order to keep their offensive teams available. But if you can clear them out much quicker with a big whack from Revel or Lake, then that's going to go faster and you wouldn't have to use a meta team, because your teams go on a 5-minute cooldown once they're used. And again, one of the reasons you want to have offensive teams is because anytime you win with one of those, you're going to want to put someone else in on defense in a lot of circumstances. Maybe not all circumstances, but because what your opponent can do, they can see you've placed a really dominant team down. They can see you got your Slinger with more Doom Demons comp, and to say, you know what, I'm going to leave that one alone. I'm going to take that meta team out of my opponent's playbook, and I'm just going to leave them sit there. I'm not even going to mess with it. Now, is there some strategy at some point in the match of trying to claim a spot and making sure no one takes it? Possibly, but usually more often than not, again, offense wins more often than not if they're reasonably matched. And so, in my opinion, you want to try and keep those offensive teams, and still maybe you're really killing somebody and you're picking at the bottom of the barrel anyway, and you're like, hey, I got this in the bag, then fine. That's just what I'm thinking. So anyway, we went over those. So again, in our order here, you want to have, let's go in again, show our teams. I wish there was a more convenient way just to get to this. It's one of the suggestions I've made. You want to have your 3 offensive teams at the top. Why 3? 3 because of that 5-minute cooldown. Within 5 minutes, hopefully you're able to get through 2 more fights. It's an average of 2.5 minutes each. Maybe you need to use a sweeper team at some point because you got another minute to lines up, because again, speed is this next component that we're going to get into here in a sec. Then you're going to have your defensive teams, because you're probably not going to use your sweeper teams that often, and you're going to have your defensive teams available to quickly select once you have one with an offensive team. All right, so I already talked about, we hit this right here, boom, sweepers at the bottom. And part of the reason for 2 sweepers at the bottom, you can just scroll until you kind of get close to the bottom. You're like, oh, okay, cool, that's where my sweepers are, just down there. Start with your defensive teams. We talked about that. You can leave the team you attack with on defense. So don't need to waste your good offense teams, right? Put them on cooldown. Because again, you never know. Someone might throw out something hard early, and you're better off just saving it and letting them not be able to continue as quickly because they've left an offensive team on defense. Take out all the NPC teams. Honestly, unless someone has unless you are one away from claiming a land, and we're going to get into again that strategy later at the end. Unless it is the last spot for you claiming a land, you 100% want to go for all the NPCs. And even in my opinion, even if someone else is like, oh, well, cool, I've taken your lands here. In my opinion, you are better off just claiming as much territory as possible, because it means your opponent is going to take more time to beat your teams than you did to fight the NPCs. And so while they're having to catch up because you have, say, two more areas than them between the 3 lands. I'm getting even confused with the language. It's still new to me too. The big main areas are called lands, and they're going to be a varying number of battles that are available in order to claim that land. So anywho, even then, if you get 2 ahead right out of those 12s, well, now they're going to take a lot longer than you to clear those NPCs, and so you've still gained a leg up on them, even if they've kind of disrupted you from grabbing a land. So we're going to grabbing the entirety of a land. That was me actually using it in the right way. Sweepers are for non-meta teams. Your enemy's set, they feature powerful AoE that essentially insta-wipes. Might be a little bit of cleanup, but insta-wipes the enemy. And if you have a defensive team available, you would probably want to switch out for that sweeper as well. Sweeper teams can still be a little tricky whenever an enemy's looking at the bottom of their barrel, or if they did place some offensive teams. While people are still figuring things out, that could be useful, but probably not too long after game is launched are people going to figure out what you want to go after and avoid. When you use your top 3 attacking teams, substitute another team on defense. Otherwise, your teammate can just your opponent can just ignore that one and leave with your teams taking on stronger defenses. Know your counters. This is the last thing here. So this is less for kind of if you have an arena meta team that you're using. I do recommend keeping one of those around in case it is advantageous to take out someone else's arena meta team that they've left on defense. But so Xerath, you don't necessarily need a super strong team with in order to have it work. Xerath's leadership messes up so many teams. Xerath's leadership messes up Pride pretty bad. They're still fine, but it messes them up pretty bad. Messes up the Panda defensive team so bad. So she's a great counter. You're going to want to go to her usually first whenever you see a team that's not as strong, but would take a long time to beat with someone, or a longer time to beat with demons, because she's going to prevent all those buffs from going out. That's the main way you want to use her. Elves are going to be usually, it depends, a little faster as long as it's a team they can beat, as long as it's not a crazy meta team. But anyway, as we have more characters and everything, you're going to want to know your counters, because not only from an offensive perspective, you don't want to waste one of those offensive teams, or ideally you don't even want to need a second shot at them, but you will be able to take one if you need to. But also on defense, because you'll want to try and group in the same land, right? Those groups of battles, you're going to want to try and group characters that require similar or the same counters. Now, an arena meta team and a Xerath team is going to be able to handle most people. So this isn't like you're blocking someone out entirely. But if you go in here, right, you got these 4 sections. If you know, hey, my opponent, they dropped their Xerath over here. I don't know why they did that. I'm going to put 2 teams here that can only get beat by demons. And that would slow your opponent's pace of being able to completely take over the land and take it away from you. For those of you who don't know how the points works, basically you get points for holding these individual areas. That's why I'm getting points now. You get points every 10 seconds. I got 2 because I have 2 there. You get an additional 2 points per 10 seconds if you hold the entirety of a land. So up to 6 points per 10 seconds from an individual land, because you 4 from each and then 2 from having the entirety of the land. So going on, we are getting into the speed section of it. or sorry, we've cleared out the speed section, we've cleared out the resources. Now we're getting into that placement bit. You get extra points, you control the entire land. You're going to want to prevent the enemy from getting lands and try to claim them yourself. That's going to be the main goal. Now, if you hold more locations the entire time, you don't ever have to claim a land to win. Obviously, again, you just essentially gain a 50% boost to the efficiency of your point production for an individual like battle location if you have the land as well, because you get the additional 2 points, so half a point between the 4 locations. Now, it is much easier to break up a land than to claim it, because you only have to take one. You only have to take one. Now, as you'll see when we go in here again, I'll do another quick fight just to show you. Whenever you claim a land, there's a cooldown on the location itself as well. So that means it's to give you time to change out the defense if you want, and it's also, I think, to kind of slow the rate at which people can quickly take. So you can't just like be waiting, oh, they're done, now I can just take it from them. There's going to be a timer on it. And go in here with the pandas. Doinky, doinky, doink. Wiping them out. Get gone. Right. So what you're going to see when we go back in here, and you may have noticed this already, just as those who were, kind of missed it, so I was there pretty quick. There is a 2-minute timer that starts. I can go in here, right? This is how I would change if I wanted to set a different defense, right? And my opponent can't attack it, right? Because, from like a fairness perspective, they're going to give me the chance to change my defense. I mean, that shouldn't be something someone should be able to just, kind of quickly take away from me because they clicked the button before me because they were waiting. Because that button's going to come up before you actually come out, because as you saw with the loading screen, that timer is already started. So the fact that this is here, that's something that you can use to your advantage. This is not going to be taken for these couple minutes. So again, it's much easier to break up a land than to claim it. What you can do is you can see, hey, this guy's in a fight here, because it'll have a little battle symbol. It'll have a little red symbol, so you can see, hey, they're trying to take this spot over here. That would give them a land. I'm going to go and hop in. I'm going to go in with one of my offensive teams. I'm going to take away one of their areas so they don't have their land maybe at all. And if not, then I've at least really limited the amount of time that they've had that land. So do prioritize breaking up lands, but you also want to work on building up your own if possible. But at the same time, if someone has gone in and they've dropped like their elves here, they've dropped their Zera here, they've dropped their demons here, I would honestly leave them. If it was me, I would let you do that, and then I would just make you suffer against my Pride team, make you suffer against my Panda team, maybe not even be able to beat them without at least 2 attempts. And I'm going to crush you with owning every other battle area the entire time. So that's why you don't do that. Initially trying to auto through as many weak teams as possible. It's not worth the time just to make people attack. You're just better off just hitting auto, let it go. The computer can take much faster actions than you. If you notice your opponent is one away from taking a land, then focus on the last NPC team there, so preventing them from claiming it outright. So let's say initially I'm kind of going for this one, they're kind of going for that one, but I see, hey, they're going in on the 3rd land, I'm going to go and take this 4th one. Do the same thing as if they were all claimed by somebody. They are taking the last one that I had, hypothetically, right? If I take this land right before they finish the 3rd, they come out, they see it's there, they attack something else. After that timer, they come in, boom, attack it. Well, now I can see that they're attacking and I can go and take away one of theirs. So focus on trying to keep your opponent from finishing lands. Second priority is to take a land yourself. So things can change as we go on from here. And again, you've seen a little bit of a sneak peek. This is the test server, right? So I don't have it all fully up to date as my spreadsheet that I've been using to build out the teams I recommend using. But just, you got a little bit of a sneak peek there. There's going to be another video coming out with kind of like my finalized, pre-release Battleground team comps recommendations. I'm trying to work on revamping the runes bit. It's a really time-consuming process, but I at least want to get out the Battlegrounds recommendations as soon as I'm able. And then the other thing I was wanting to do, holy cow, my brain is broken. Oh, and then I'm going to do an artifact tier list. Once currently the locations, they might be finalized. The numbers, the wording might be finalized. Not 100% sure. So I'm waiting for that to be fixed because frankly, like one artifact is much more likely to be food for another artifact if you can get it from an additional location. So that's the main thing that I'm taking into consideration at this point, on top of them actually changing how they work. So I hope this video was useful to giving you kind of an idea of like, oh my gosh, what do we even want to do in this thing? You're going to want to drop in hot. You're going to have your teams ready to go, and you're going to be able to just go for those, 20-ish minutes that you're going to face it off. This will definitely help you do better. I'll see you around next time.